So, I want to just point out here, we've all heard David Grush's testimony under oath to Congress back about now it's about 1 year ago exactly, where he said that the U.S. Department of Defense had recovered alien UFOs and he called them biologics. And so, we have to wonder, given what we saw in the movie E.T. with Steven Spielberg's characterization of an extraterrestrial and how similar they look to the humanoid reptile species that we see in the Nazca Mummies. I mean, there's just remarkable similarity there. And we have to wonder, where did Steven Spielberg get his information?
Yeah.
And were these mummies actually known of before this film E.T. was discovered? I question that, and I ask that on. I don't know if anybody here is familiar with Chase Brandon. He was a CIA he was in the clandestine service of the CIA, and he was stationed, interestingly enough, in South America. And he wrote a book called The Cryptos Conundrum. And after his assignment in South America, he was actually assigned to be the CIA sort of emissary to Hollywood. And the CIA, they have people that work in Hollywood to make sure, I think that, I'm sure they perform multiple roles in their liaison between the CIA and Hollywood. But this Chase Brandon, interestingly, he served both roles. He served the CIA down in South America, and then he served also in Hollywood as their liaison. And so I wonder if any information came from South America to the ears and eyes of Steven Spielberg through one of these liaisons with the CIA.
Well,
it's just a question.
Well, and another question too, maybe if you could just kind of tilt your camera down a little bit. Even if they didn't see any of this from Peru, let's make the argument that these species are perhaps some of the same species that our Pentagon and CIA have recovered. So if it would certainly stand to reason. I mean, all of us, I think, have been pretty confident that Steven Spielberg had really good inside knowledge. These don't seem like things that he would just guess on out of the blue. If he did, he should win. He would probably win the lottery, although he probably has enough more money than the California lottery right now. So,
unless he's an incredible remote viewer,
Well, yeah.
I mean, he would have to be an incredible remote viewer.
So interesting here on my signal, Dr. Gary Nolan just pinged, and he says, Matt, this presentation is amazing. Again, this is Dr. Gary Nolan of Stanford University, the executive director of the Soul Foundation, and he was. And he says, I don't want to come on. I was going to ask him if he wants to come on the air, but he says he looks like shit today. So he's just going to text these questions. But
so do I.
Well, you should see me without a suit. I totally look horrible. So anyway, so Dr. Nolan says, Matt, this presentation is amazing. Clearly, he's very impressed. He was noting here that there seem to be two different types. He notes here the small one seem very different than the other one that is crouched over. Are these two species?
In fact, they've described three, as far as I know, three different separate species of these mummies that were all discovered in this same repository of these body or corpses, really is what they are. They're not really mummies, they're corpses,
right?
Because they have all of their internal organs that are highly desiccated and fairly difficult to figure out what you're looking at. But as far as their interior organ structures, but they have discovered three different species that I'm aware of all of them are quite different than one another. So,
yeah. Dr. Nolan was noting that the brain cases are very different between the two. So is it when he says that the brain cases are different, is the internal volume of the brain casing different in size, or is it more of just the shape of it? And would that indicate a difference in age of the different ones? So.
So I don't know if you're referencing these two that are juxtaposed here in the slide on the left, or if he's talking about comparing like Josefina here in the foreground on the left to Maria, who's a much different, humanoid specimen. But yeah, I mean the sizes of these are way different. These little smaller ones are about 60 centimeters long. And the Maria, I think, was like 1.68 meters long. So she's about the size of an average human female. Okay. These are very small. These are, let's say, 2 feet long, So yeah, they're way, way different.
Dr. Nolan was asking, he noted earlier, just kind of going back to his message here, he was saying that he says they seem to be two different types. The small ones seem very different than the one that is crouched over. So I think perhaps he's talking about the one that was that was going through the CT scan.
Oh.
And also a note from Dr. Nolan as well. Is it possible these beings came from a different caste system per se?
It's absolutely possible.
Sure.
I have no idea what their hierarchy of, this is going to be something that anthropologists and sociologists, this one reason that the journal that picked this article up is because that's the kind of things that this particular journal that's produced in Brazil, these are the kind of questions that they address in their journal, is the sort of social and environmental consequences of discoveries like this and what they could mean. And so I think that that's the reason that this particular journal picked up this article and peer reviewed it and published it.
And going back and looking at the image on the left, so I think this would be the beings that you say sort of had more of reptilian sort of features. I mean, you look at the parallelism between the individual ribs. I mean, that definitely is not something human I would say.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, it's humanoid, but definitely not human. The one on the left or in the foreground is the one that had the eggs that you could see in the pelvis. And in reptiles is a more parallel sort of relationship between the ribs. Is that more of a common feature in reptiles, that sort of parallelism? I don't know the answer to that, actually. I'm more familiar with human anatomy, but
clearly this is
a biologist
Doctor. Go ahead. Sorry,
Dr. Jose. There's a Dr. Jose de los Rios Lopez is one of the primary biologists that's been involved in the study of these. He's in Campeche, Mexico, I believe. And so he would probably be able to address that question, but I don't know.
Got it.